Hello, hello. All right, let me get situated here so I can properly go live. I'm like 2 minutes late. Sorry. My little baby just woke up, and I don't think there's anything cuter in the entire universe than a 5-month-old waking up. Like, they're just so happy. So I had to go get him and tell him good morning, and then I gave him to my nanny for her to love on for a little bit. Okay. Sorry, I'm doing the like postpartum hair loss thing, and my hair just will not stop falling out. So if you see me like pulling hair out, it's because it's falling out of my head. All right. Hi guys. Welcome. Sorry about the confusion. I did not communicate things well with my virtual assistant, and she thought they were all Zoom calls. So really quick, the activations, these will be just live on Facebook. Some pieces will also be recorded and uploaded. Some pieces will be meditation. Some will be hypnosis. The way that if you've never been in a program with me, the way that I create my programs is they're all channeled. Okay, my dog took my kid's toy and he's eating it. Anyway, they're all channeled in whatever way they want to come through. And so I don't judge the way. It's not my job to be the editor. It's just my job to deliver. So sometimes it comes through in a podcast or like an audio recording. Sometimes it comes through in a meditation. And the way that this one wanted to come through was a live video, and there may be other pieces. But this first activation that we have today is on sacred boundaries in business. And actually, I just realized something, you guys. Okay, we're going to go with it. And next time, I just realized something that next time I'm going to go live via Zoom. That way I can record on Zoom. But what I'll do is I'll just keep going live, and then I'll download this as soon as I'm done, and hope to God it's still there, and then I'll download it. Okay, sorry. I just realized I meant to go live into the group via Zoom. But anyway, this first activation is sacred boundaries in business. I have some notes over here if you see me looking, but most of what comes through me is just going to come through me. So the reason I call these an activation is because it's one thing to sit and just like learn information and do a course and like listen to a module. I do that all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. However, an activation to me has intention behind it and energy behind it. So these aren't just modules where you're listening and learning. These are actually intentional, energetic shifts. So as you're in this frequency, as you're hearing what I'm saying, you're not only going to get it on a conscious level, but you're going to receive healing and releasing at an energetic and subconscious level. The way that we do that is to decide and agree that you're going to receive the energy and set your intention for the activation. Okay. So you just decide and set your intention that however you want to word it is totally fine. But I'll say like a general kind of, I don't want to call it a prayer, but an activation prayer, so to speak, that everything that needs to come through me will come through me. Everybody who needs to receive, or everybody who's here will receive exactly what they came here to receive, that their higher self will receive it, their conscious will receive it, and their subconscious. It will integrate fully over the next few days and in our 4 weeks together, and that this will ignite you to a whole new level of consciousness, a whole new way of being, a whole new way of operating in your life and business that will allow you to be in your power and more the sovereign queen of your life. Okay? So set your intention now, because intention creates its own fulfillment. So if you set your intention that this activation, this is the thing that's going to help me be in my power and create really beautiful boundaries that support me and support my clients and help me create and expand and do what I'm meant to do in this world, then that's exactly what will happen, because intention creates its own fulfillment. When you set an intention, it's not your job to know how. You just set it and then you surrender. Anything less than trust is lack. So when I set my intention, I don't need to worry about, is it going to happen? How am I going to happen? You just decide. You just know. And then you allow the intention to fulfill itself, because that's what it does. And that's trust. When we can fully lean into that, that is ultimate trust, right? So set your intention now, decide. Okay. And I've obviously set all my intentions and created an energetic space for everybody who's here or will be watching the replay. All right. So let's dive into, I have so many different areas I want to cover, but honestly, the first piece that I want to go over here, there's a frequency to boundaries. Okay. And I want to kind of start with like, what is the definition of a boundary? Because maybe your association with boundaries is that boundaries are these mean, cold, hard, bitchy things. If I have boundaries, I'm a bitch. Right? Let me know in the comments if you've ever felt like that. I used to be called a bitch all the time when I was much younger because I was just, I'm very blunt and I was misunderstood and people would think I was a bitch. So then I didn't want to be perceived as a bitch. So I decided to be a people pleaser. And that kind of started leading into my people pleasing behaviors because I was like, oh God, they think I'm a bitch. I don't want to be a bitch. God forbid. Right. And now I'm like, I own it. I don't care. I don't think I am a bitch. I think I'm just blunt and I just say it like it is. I really don't like when people sugarcoat shit for me. So I don't sugarcoat shit for people. I'm a direct communicator. That's what I like to call it. But when I was younger, I was just referred to as being a bitch. And I was like, well, I don't want that. So I started people pleasing and I started putting on layers of fluff so that I didn't make people uncomfortable and I didn't make people feel any sort of way other than just like perfectly safe and happy around me. Having strong boundaries doesn't mean you're a bitch. There's a big difference between having boundaries and then just like being an asshole to people. That's obviously two totally different things, okay? So what is your definition of a boundary? That's the first thing I want you to decide. My definition of a boundary is just a decision about what I'm available for and what I'm not available for. That's all it is. This is what I'm available for. This is what I'm not available for. And that's it. It's not my job to worry about how you perceive that. It's not my job to worry about how you're going to take that or if you're going to be upset about it. It's just, this is what I'm totally okay with. This is what I'm not okay with. That's the boundary. That's all it is. It's nothing fancy and it's nothing to be stressed about. Yeah. Most of us who are like really empowered and strong, especially if you're a fire sign, I'm a fire sign. I've learned, nobody calls me that anymore, but even if they did, I would totally embrace it now. But I think when I was younger, I didn't get that. I didn't get that that was a gift of mine. God, my hair is driving me nuts. So what is your definition of a boundary? First and foremost, let's just simplify it. Take out all the negativity, because if you think of it as something that's like this cold, hard, ugly thing, it's going to be really uncomfortable for you to just own them. Okay. Oh yeah. Yay. Love fire signs. Love all the signs. My husband's earth sign and it works perfectly with the fire sign because we really balance each other. So the first thing is creating your definition. Now, the second piece that's really coming through is boundaries are more of an energy than anything else. It's a feeling within yourself. You create boundaries energetically first. And I know on the Q&A call yesterday, I kind of talked about this. But the beautiful thing, I think the reason sometimes we're afraid to create boundaries is we're afraid we're going to push our clients away. We're going to push people away. We're going to push our clients away. We're going to upset them. We're going to make them mad. Let me know in the comments, because this can be as interactive and it's very helpful for me to see what comes up for you. But I know when I created boundaries, I would be like, oh, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Like, I don't want to upset somebody because I'm a nice person and you guys are nice, right? Like, I don't want to be the reason somebody feels sad, right? So then I had trouble creating boundaries. But here's the thing. When you have really strong boundaries, are deeply supportive of your people and of their transformation. So if you're a coach, awesome. Even if you're not a coach, if you're a photographer, right? If you're a coach, photographer, if you are a creative, if you're a consultant, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if you're a coach and you're helping your transformation or you're a photographer. Your boundaries inspire people. And when people are in your energy, when your clients are in your energy, you're activating something within them. And them getting to be in proximity to your power shifts things for them. It helps them wake up to their own power. And they may not thank you in the moment, right? When I set a boundary with somebody in the moment, they might be a little triggered. They might be a little mad. They're not going to probably thank me in the moment. Sometimes they will. But I've definitely set boundaries and had clients come back to me later and say, you know what? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because I've been trying to work on boundaries in my business. And this just showed me exactly how to do that. Or thank you so much for not letting me cross that boundary, because I really, really am actually inspired. And I want to be more like that. And now I see how I can. So by you owning your fullness, owning your boundaries, owning your unapologeticness, if that's a word, you inspire all of the people who come into your circle and work with you to do the same. So it's actually, it's actually extremely supportive of our clients to have boundaries and very inspiring for them, right? One of the things I wrote here is our clients love when we set boundaries. That's a belief I have. Our clients love when we set boundaries. Us being who we are being is what creates transformation for people. Hear that again. Us being who we're being is actually what creates the transformation for people. It's not all the modules, it's not all the trainings, it's not all the pictures, it's not all the whatever you provide for people. Yes, those things help, but who you're being is the number one thing that's going to create a transformation for somebody. So if somebody comes into your world and you're being wavering, you're being wishy-washy, you're being a people pleaser, you're being unsure in your boundaries, you're being like, you're answering questions in the DMs and doing coaching for free, and you're being all these ways of being, then that's what they're getting, that's what they're picking up on, right? People pay you for your energy. People pay you for your energy. And I used to think that was like really bad. When I heard that at first, I was like, well, that's really conceited. That's really cocky. People aren't just going to pay me for my energy. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, actually, when I really think about every mentor I've ever hired, every coach I've ever hired, when I really think about it, yeah, I actually am just paying for their energy. That's literally exactly what I'm paying for. That's like 1,000% what I'm paying for. I'm not paying for the program. I'm not paying for the PDF. I'm not paying for anything other than their energy. That's literally what I'm paying for. And this applies for every single business, but especially if you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a healer, you're a creative, especially for those people. Like, for example, art. Okay, I'm not like into art. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm like not an artist, and I'm not like somebody who's gonna buy really expensive art. But what I will say is I have felt more of a pull to purchase art, and I know a few people who make art. The deciding factor on what piece I'm going to purchase will 1,000% be based on the energy of the person creating the art, not the art itself. Because I'm paying for somebody's energy. I'm paying for who they're being when they make that piece. Because if that piece is going to be in my office and I'm going to look at it every fucking day, you best believe I look at that and I pick up on that person's energy. So I have somebody in my world I have lots of people in my world who make art. But if I can feel that, like, I don't know that I want that energy hanging out with me every day, even if they're a lovely human being, I'm not going to buy that piece of art. I'm going to buy art from the person who it's like, I love the art, but I love who the person was being when they made the art. Like, I could just tell that they were being in their joy and their happiness. Same thing with photography. So I actually, and I bring that up because Lauren did photography, but also it's a perfect example because I think sometimes we're like, oh, well, that only applies to coaching. No, this applies to everything. I have a photographer I've worked with for years, and I love her. I love her. She has an amazing gift. But our last session together, her energy, her being, what she brought to the session, it wasn't there. There was something missing. And so even though she took the pictures and they were beautiful and the investment point is very, very inexpensive, it's like, I don't think I'll ever hire her again because I don't feel like you had fun when you were here. I don't feel like who you're being when you're doing this. I don't know. Like, I want to be in the energy of people who are really, really excited and passionate about their work, just like I want to be in the energy of a mentor who has really strong boundaries because it creates an energetic anchor for me to be in my boundaries. I'm not going to go hire a coach and a mentor who doesn't have strong boundaries. I never would. I just never would. Now, that doesn't mean people won't, but I'm not going to, because to me, I want to be in that energy. So anytime we work with somebody, whether it's a coach or a creative or a consultant, whatever, like whoever you are, it's creating that energetic anchor, and you're paying for proximity to their energy. And people love when you set strong boundaries. Your clients fucking love it. Because that's power. That's not power over people. That's internal power, which is very different than power over people. Power over people and over things and control, that is ego. I'm talking about personal power that comes from within, of knowing that you're worthy. You get to create the life you want. You get to set the boundaries and the requirements that you desire. And there's no discussion. There's no explaining. There's no me telling you why this is what I'm doing. This is simply the way it is because I choose that this is the way it is. This is what I'm available for. So when I'm looking, so sometimes we're like, I don't want to set boundaries. I don't want to upset my clients. But do you understand that your clients love that? They want that from you. You guys want that from me, right? If I had this container and I was just like people pleasing the fuck out of the whole thing and just like, over delivering from a place of not being good enough, not having boundaries, not having, set times I'm going to be in here. Or if I was working with a private client that way, you probably wouldn't want to be here. You probably it wouldn't be as potent of a container, right? So the first thing we have to shift is this belief that people aren't going to like it or our clients aren't going to like it. They fucking love it. They need it because it reminds them of who they really are and of their power. Now, some people won't like it. Awesome. Perfect. That's actually a really good thing because we are not meant to be, Roxy, we're not meant to be vanilla as fuck. Okay. I spent the first 4.5 years of my first health and fitness business pretty fucking vanilla compared to what I really am. I didn't curse at all because I was afraid people wouldn't like it. I didn't talk about spirituality, and I wasn't as spiritual back then, but I was a little bit, but I never talked about it, right? And I didn't talk about how I'm a hunter. I hunt. That's how we feed my family, is my husband and I hunt for all of our food. I was so ashamed of that. I thought, because I wasn't raised to be a hunter. I actually didn't start hunting until I met my husband. And then I realized how ethical it actually can be. And I really enjoy living off the land. And if I'm going to eat meat, I'd like to get it myself. So with that being said, I wasn't raised a hunter. So I had a lot of shame around it. And so I hid that part of myself. And I don't even know how I got on that tangent, but I don't know how I got on that tangent. Let me see where I can come back to it. But the point is, that was the point. We're meant to polarize people. We're meant to be like a battery, or that's maybe that battery is not a good example. A magnet, right? A magnet is either going to attract or repel. We're meant to be that way. And when we don't do that because we're hiding and we want to stay safe, we not only don't attract the right people, but we don't repel the wrong ones. We kind of just get like whatever is coming to us. So I spent a lot of time in my first 4 years of business. Like I had some really great people, had a lot of really not so good people, because I wasn't ever really solid in who I was. And I wasn't okay with the fact that some people aren't going to get this. Some people aren't going to get me and they're going to walk away. I wasn't okay with that because I thought it meant something about me, when in reality it doesn't mean shit about me. It just means that they're not meant for me, and that's cool. When you set boundaries, some people aren't going to like it and they may not want to be a part of it. That's totally fine. You'd probably be surprised how little that's going to happen. Like it's really not going to happen like you probably think it will. But I will say we teach people how to treat us. So if there are people, I know I talked about this yesterday on the coaching call, if there are people in your life who have learned to treat you in a certain way, when you create boundaries, they will either get really mad or really defensive, or they may not be a part of your life. And that's okay. My best friend was a huge people pleaser. So everybody we went to college with learned how to treat her. And they honestly treated her like shit. Now, she's my sister and my best friend. And as she came into her power and started reteaching people how to treat her, they didn't get on board with it. They were like really, they were used to treating her kind of like shit because she let people walk all over her. She was a people pleaser. She had no boundaries. She just wanted to be liked. So she did whatever people wanted and told people whatever they needed to hear. She just is like the kindest person ever. And would overextend herself to like go do a bunch of things for people. And when she stopped doing that, when she created boundaries, when she said, no, I'm going to take care of me first, because that's actually the most selfless thing I can do. And the truth of who I really am, because people pleasing just hides the real us. That's all it does. So when she finally said, no, this is who I really am, and this is how you're going to treat me, and created boundaries, a lot of relationships fell away. But that's the thing. I saw her making those shifts and I was like, okay, yes, I'm here for it. Let's do this. So the people who love you unconditionally, who are meant to be in your life, if you create new boundaries around that relationship because you teach people how to treat you, they'll be down to learn and grow with you. and be like, fuck yeah, I love this. But sometimes, you know, if it's a husband or something and you've been in a relationship for like a really long time and you're just creating boundaries and it's a really loud plane, it may be a little shaky at first. It's not your responsibility to get people to understand your boundaries or to worry about how they're going to react to your boundaries. So draw a circle around your feet, literally, okay? Imagine a circle around your feet. Everything inside that circle is what you are responsible for, and absolutely nothing else. You're not responsible for anything else. That's it. Just you. There's nothing else. Okay? There's nothing else. Let me read the comments here. Lauren said shit. I'm not sure what you said shit about, but I hope it was a good shit. Yes. Yeah, and you know what? Leah said she's realizing she's more of a people pleaser than she realized. Story about that. Hold on. Because intention creates its own fulfillment. If you decide it's now my intention to release this part, that, you know, lovingly no longer choose to experience this aspect of myself as a people pleaser, then your subconscious will show you the places where this has been popping up so that you can release it. So you will start to notice more and more and more where it's showing up, where before it was so unconscious you didn't even know it was happening. It'll start to show up more and more and more. So as I do this work and I create boundaries and I release more and more, I've noticed places where it comes up where I had no idea. And one of the things that happened about 2 weeks ago was I was people pleasing around my mother-in-law big time, massively, because I would caretake her feelings. Like, I've always done this, I realized. This is another form of people pleasing. I don't want her to feel any type of way other than happy. So I've got to make sure that I control the environment. I manipulate situations, not in a manipulative way, but just in like a caretaking way, so that she could feel okay. Right? So if my son did something, he's 3. If he did something that upset her, which is a story in and of itself because he's 3 years old, but neither here nor there. If he did something to upset her, I would immediately go into people pleasing mode and be like, wait a minute. I don't want her to feel sad. I don't want her to be upset. So let me caretake. Let me try to fix this. Let me make sure she's okay. And I was like, Cassie, what the fuck are you doing? Like, she's a grown ass fucking woman. If she wants to get upset about this shit from a 3-year-old, like, go for it. But I'm not going to sit here and caretake and wrap you in bubble wrap so you don't have to be upset. It is not my son's job to keep you happy. It is not my job to keep you happy. And I realized in that moment what I was teaching my son was we have to be responsible for how other people feel. Because my whole life I made myself responsible for how other people feel. And how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you're people pleasing in your business, I guarantee you're people pleasing in a lot of areas of your life. Or caretaking. Or making sure that you are responsible for how other people feel. I've done that my whole life. And I didn't realize it until very recently. I do it with my parents. Like, I don't want people to be, I don't like being around people when they're in a bad energy, like a bad feeling, a bad emotion. So when I was little, I learned that if somebody's upset, if I make them feel better, then I don't have to be around them feeling bad, and then I can feel better. So I would learn to like help people feel better so that I could feel better. And it just created this like really exhausting life. And I think a lot of us who are empaths, we probably get into this, right? And what I've realized as an adult is I don't need you to feel okay for me to feel okay. So when my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, like nothing, she's actually an amazing, amazing person. We have a phenomenal relationship. We really do. So I'm really not trying to talk bad. She's a wonderful person, great relationship. But she's emotionally unstable a lot of the times. And it's been a great lesson for me to realize that I don't need you to feel okay for me to be okay. I don't need to control a situation or make things different so that you can feel better. You're an adult. You're a fucking adult. This is not my responsibility. I'm no longer going to do this. This is a hard boundary for me moving forward. I will not take responsibility for how you feel. I will not sugarcoat shit so that you don't have to be upset. You need to grow up in this specific aspect. Like, I'm done, right? Hard boundary. I became aware of where I was people pleasing, caretaking, like wrapping people in bubble wrap so that they didn't have to feel a certain way. And it's like, fuck that, I'm not available. So just ask, like literally just ask and set your intention. And this is one of my favorite things to do. I was teaching somebody this the other day. When you're going to sleep at night, you can ask your subconscious for anything. So one of the things I love to do is ask my subconscious, just like as I'm drifting off to sleep, subconscious, show me the ways in which I'm people pleasing that I may not be aware of, or show me the ways that I need to strengthen my boundaries that I may not be aware of. Or you can just ask me, show me what I need to see that I'm not seeing. That's something I got from one of my coaches, Jim Fortin. He always asks before he goes to sleep, show me what it is I need to see that I'm not seeing. It's such a beautiful question because that really applies to everything. And then as the moments come up during the day, you don't need to beat yourself up. Like you're a human, okay? So if you set a boundary and you kind of wobble, or you have a moment where you fall back into an old habit of caretaking people, people pleasing, trying to make people feel better, like give yourself grace. There's no availability here to be a dick to yourself. Like we're not doing it, okay? So do not be like, I joined Cassie's activation and I'm not supposed to do this anymore. Like that's also not something we're going to do, okay? Because you're a human and you're learning and you're growing. And part of why you came here and incarnated on this planet was to experience all aspects of you, even the parts that you don't, you want to shame or you want to put down or you want to shut down, right? Even the part of you that is people pleasing or has shitty boundaries, that you came here to experience that too. You are infinite loving consciousness, and you get to experience it all and not shame yourself for being a human being. Like you came here to be a human. All right. Yes, oh, I love that, Lauren. Lauren said, speaking of yesterday, I replied to my friend with a price that felt good to me, and he didn't mention a thing about it. I didn't even justify any of it, just said, this is the price. You're welcome. That's amazing. And it's all you. And also don't justify shit. Unless somebody even if somebody asks me, like, I don't think people typically do, but if somebody okay, hard stop. My brother-in-law, I feel like my family really is wonderful. I'm really not trying to put them under the bus. It's just our family can be like the perfect opportunity for spiritual growth and business growth. Cause they can be like our biggest triggers. But my brother-in-law, who's just like the best, he can be very, I just love Ryan. He's a piece of work and he loves to complain about the economy. He's a realtor. And so the first thing he says every time he comes over is like, I had 4 deals fall through. The economy's going to shit and you're never going to be able to afford to build a house. like literally every time. It makes me laugh because I live in a different universe and I'm like, you live in an illusion and I send you so much love. But anyway, he came over like 2 weeks ago and that's how he started the conversation. I had a couple deals fall through and what do you think of this economy? And I said, hard stop, Ryan. I literally will not have this conversation with you. If you want to talk about the weather, if you want to talk about what's good in your life, if you want to talk about something happy and fun, I'm your girl. But will I sit here and commiserate with you on how shitty business is going? Absolutely fucking not. I will not do it. That's a boundary. And I don't care how I sound. I'm not fucking available for it. Because all that does is bring me down. And it's a boring conversation. And I just don't want to do it. And that's how he is. So now he knows how to treat me. This is, if you want to be in my life, have a relationship, let's talk about everything. And if you want to talk about the economy, let's do it in a way that's productive and in a way that's actually like empowering, not us just like bitching and complaining. That doesn't help anybody about anything. So I created that hard boundary around like, this is how it is. And he started, the point I'm sharing this is he wanted me to justify. He was like, well, why? Why can't we talk about this? Don't you live in reality? And I was like, I'm not going to justify why this is. This is just the way it is. And like him and I have a very blunt relationship, so I could be extra blunt with him. Like I can just really tell him how it is. So I may have like been a little softer in my presentation, but I also want to say clear is kind. I wish I could remember who said that because I'm taking that from Brene Brown. Brene Brown. She has a book, and I don't remember the name of the book, but one of the things she talks about in the book is clear is kind. When you're setting boundaries, clear is kind. Clear is kind because when you're very clear, to the point, direct, you can do that in a way that's very kind, in a way that's very simple, in a way that's very loving. But when you create clear boundaries, people feel really safe. They feel really safe. They know where they stand. They get you. They're not afraid because they're like, yeah, I don't really know if she's going to overreact. I really don't know if I'm allowed to say this or say that. Like, they feel safe. They know exactly who you are and what you stand for. Clear is kind. And so anytime you're like, oh, I don't want to be too blunt, I don't want to be too clear, too forward with my boundaries, you just have to switch that in your mind and realize the more forward and just upfront you are with your boundaries, the more kind you're being to that person. I think it's like really beautiful, you know? But the point of that whole rant was, do not justify. You don't need to. It's just not, I just wouldn't. Oh, thanks, Anna. Yes, I do hunt. Pretty cool. It was an aha moment about how if we don't act as our authentic selves, we draw on the same frequency as how we show up. Exactly. Which we know when it happens that it doesn't feel good. Yep. Just be yourself. Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely resonated with this one. Yay. Yeah, I don't have political. I don't, because it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to have a political conversation most of the time because I'm like, I literally incarnated on this planet how many times? I don't know. And if you don't believe in reincarnation, that's totally cool. But it's one of my beliefs. And I'm like, I've reincarnated like a lot. I've seen like a lot of leaders probably in a lot of different political situations. And it's just like, I just don't want to fucking talk about it. Can we talk about something that's like going to actually like change the world and help people? I don't know. It's just not my jam. No judgment if it's yours though, because we need people who do that, right? Let me get back on topic because I'm like really off topic here. So when you tell people the boundaries, it creates safety. Clear is kind. Now, there is a piece here around getting clear. Like, if you're not clear on what your boundaries is, how do you expect anybody else to be? So this is called sacred boundaries. It's kind of, I keep thinking about sex because I've been watching, we're going to go there because I love sex. I'm watching this show on Netflix, which I highly recommend, called How to Build a Sex Room. So fucking good. And one of the things, also I'm laughing really hard, you guys, because my neighbor is out and he's like extremely religious and he can hear me talking. He probably thinks I'm a quack. But anyway, one of the things they talk about on the show is like BDSM a lot, and how in BDSM, there has to be safe words and there has to be like really clear, direct boundaries about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And you have to be able to communicate that with people. And I think that's so beautiful because it's like in life, we're taught to just like tiptoe around things and make sure we don't upset people and all that bullshit. But it's like when it comes to BDSM, it's like that's actually where the power comes from. Now, I don't do BDSM, but I find it really interesting to learn about. And the reason I share that is you want clear-cut boundaries. You want people, like if you're not clear on what your boundaries are, you can't expect anybody else to be. So I don't want to call it homework, but what I want you to do after this call is sit down and just journal and allow yourself to just free write without judgment, without scripting, without editing. Just free write the ways in which you have been maybe giving your power away or not creating strong boundaries or people pleasing or trying to help people feel differently, right? Like I was doing with my mother-in-law, catering to people, that sort of thing. Just start journaling on all those ways that's been showing up. Ask your subconscious to keep showing you more. And as more things come up, be with yourself in a loving awareness. Instead of getting into judgment, get into curiosity. So literally my reaction when something comes up, like that situation with my mother-in-law 2 weeks ago where I realized I was people pleasing the fuck out of myself, instead of being like, God, Cassie, what the fuck? My immediate thought was, oh, isn't that curious? Isn't that so fun? Isn't that so interesting? Now I get to change it. So just start journaling on the ways it's showing up. Free write. Allow it to flow. And then decide on some boundaries you're going to put in place. Now, it's very helpful to me, guys, if you have specific things that are coming up, put them in the comments, post them in the group. We have group calls, Q&A calls as well. But if there's like a specific aspect in your business where you're like, this is a specific thing where I know I want to set a boundary, but I don't know what that looks like or how, please ask. Because there's so many different situations in business. It's impossible for me to sit here and be like, in your business, this is what your boundaries need to be. Because every business is different. Every situation is different. What you want is going to be different than what I have, right? So if you have a specific, like Lauren's specific situation yesterday, I can answer to that. you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be almost impossible for me to tell you exactly how to set up your boundaries. So if you have specific instances that come up where you're like, I do want to create a boundary in my business in this way, I just don't know how to put it or what to say, bring it here so we can figure that out and we can play with it. I will say one of the things that I do, because we talked about it yesterday, is like, I'm not going to do free coaching in my DMs because I used to like, not get into full-blown coaching, but I would just like pal around in the DMs, like give a little bit of advice because we're caring people, right? We're like, I want to help. I can help her. Okay, let me send all these messages. And what I realized was, if I'm doing that for free in the DMs, it's out of integrity with my clients who are paying me. Because they're paying me a lot of money to give them that same coaching. So I just can't do it in the DMs. So one of the things I started saying was, thank you so much for sharing this with me. I don't do free coaching in the DMs out of respect and integrity for my paying clients. But I love that you shared that. Or, if you want to work with me, here are the ways. You can just say thank you. You are under no obligation to respond to people at all. And like that's something I'm still working on, to be honest, because I don't want to upset people. I really don't want people to feel like they don't matter. But that's not about them. That's about me. Nobody can feel like they don't matter because of me. If they feel like they don't matter, that's in them. Right? So just the other day, I had somebody message me who is a wonderful, wonderful human. And she sent me, like, not a client, just in my Facebook group. And we've been connected through free things I've done for a while. And she messaged me a 8-minute long Facebook message. I have a boundary, hard stop. I'm not listening to an 8-minute long message. If you're not a paying client, I'm not listening to that, because that is a boundary I have to have in place, because I'm not going to take 8 minutes from my kids to do that. I'm not going to take 8 minutes to listen to a message that's not from a client when people are paying me to do this with them. Right? And so in that moment, I was like, God, I got into that, like, I don't want her to feel sad. I don't want her to feel like she's not valid. So I sat with it for a while. So I gave myself time to process, like, okay, how do I handle this? And I just basically, I decided not to respond. I just said, and I kind of let it go, which was really perfect, because once I made that decision, the universe is always, showing up to mirror us. So as soon as I made that decision, she actually messaged me and was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I think I just needed to vent. I feel so much better. So I messaged her back and I said, oh, I'm so glad you feel better. I never listened to the message. I don't know what it was about. And I used to feel so bad about that. And now I'm like, I don't need to feel bad about this. She got what she needed. She just needed to vent. And I can just choose to not feel bad, because the other thing is she probably wasn't feeling bad at all. She probably wasn't feeling like, oh my God, Cassie's not, like, my perception is projection. Perception is projection. Perfect example of this was yesterday on our Q&A call. Anna asked if I could do a meditation. And I was going to do a meditation. I love doing those, or like an energy clearing. But I had to breastfeed my son. And so I was like, I literally have to. So I have to, basically get off this call, because I allotted an hour and I have to feed my son. And as I got off the call, I felt really bad, because I was like, I really don't want her to think that I don't want her to feel anything other than the love I have for her. I don't want her to feel like that was a dumb question. I don't want her to feel like her speaking up is not valid. And I realized, and I actually talked to my coach about it, because I was like, why does this hurt me so bad? Like, anytime I make somebody, or I think somebody may feel like what they have to say isn't important, I feel terrible. And she's like, well, where in your life did you have that happen? And I remember being in kindergarten, my teacher asking me a question, me answering, and her shooting me down. And I like, all of a sudden, all these times in my life where I said something and it wasn't received and I got shot down came up, and I was like, oh, since perception is projection, I was projecting that onto Anna. She may have felt that. She may not have. I have no idea what she felt. But in my mind and in my heart, I was like, oh my God, she feels as bad as I felt when that happened to me all those times before. So when we project onto people, or whatever we perceive is happening when we set a boundary, is a projection from what's within us. Does that make sense? Am I making sense, you guys? So what I ended up doing was I was like, I'm going to do a timeline therapy. And it's basically like a regression back to all those times in my life where this happened, and learn the lesson I needed to learn. Because once I learn the lesson and my subconscious learns the lesson, I can release it. But it was a beautiful moment for me to realize why that bothers me so much when people message me and I don't respond. Because I have to have that boundary though, right? I need that boundary because I can't run a business. Now, this is the other piece about boundaries, and I want to keep going because I have a lot to cover. Your ability to expand and grow your business is directly correlates to your boundaries and how much free time you have. Because if you think that growing your business bigger means you have less freedom because you don't have strong boundaries, then you will consciously and subconsciously sabotage yourself out of that and limit your own growth. So if I keep giving my time away to people or having like boundaries that I don't have really rock solid, I literally cannot scale. You cannot scale people pleasing. You cannot scale shitty boundaries. And this is a lesson, like this is evolving. So I should have said this at the beginning. I'm definitely not sitting here saying, I've got it all figured out. I'm the queen at boundaries. Like this is perfect for me. No. New levels, new devils. Always. So as I continue to grow, as my business continues to expand, as I grow into the multi-million-dollar company that I will have, I will be challenged on new boundaries. And I will constantly have to reassess the boundaries I've set and level them up. Create new boundaries all the time. It's an evolution, and it's always going to be growing as your business grows. But if you don't have strong boundaries now, then of course you're not going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to grow. And you're going to be like, I don't understand why this isn't working. I'm trying all the strategies. I'm doing all the things. And you're looking at all these things outside of you thinking that that's the next level to your growth in business. When in reality, it was always just you right here having all these weird leaky energy. Because I think of not solid boundaries is a leak of energy. Okay. So if you imagine like waking up in the morning, your cup is full. You have all the energy in the world. And then what happens is because you have these little places where you don't have clear expectations or clear boundaries, or you don't actually have clear lines in the sand of what you're available for, it's almost like people are like siphoning your energy. So they're putting little hoses all over your energy and they're just like siphoning your energy out. And then at the end of the day, you're like, wait a minute, why am I so exhausted? Why don't I have any power to create with? We create from our personal power. But if you siphon your personal power out through these leaky boundaries and these leaky borders, then you're going to have nothing left to create with. So I just say this because like I'm human. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep having to practice boundaries. I'm going to have to keep reassessing them as I scale. And your ability to receive more directly correlates to how strong these are within you. Same thing with money. Your ability to increase how much money you have is affected as well by your boundaries because it's all related. I'm struggling with setting boundaries with my oracle card readings. I do them for not much and they stay around 5 to 10 minutes and I want to keep offering them for cheap. I feel compete with that. Wait, hold on. I do them for not much and they stay around 5 to 10 minutes and I want to keep offering them, but not sure how to feel complete with that amount of time. However, I feel like it should be sufficient for the price. Yeah, and we can go into some pricing stuff. Leah, with pricing isn't just about boundaries, how much you price things. In a sense it is, because it's like, this is how much we've been taught to think that my time is worth a certain dollar amount, because that's how we were trained in the world. But when you're an entrepreneur in a business like the kind of business you're in, you're actually not getting paid hourly. You're getting paid energetically for your energy, which took me a really hard time to get my head around. And honestly, some days I'm still getting my head around it. Because when I first started my business, I was still like, okay, if I have a package where I'm doing like 3 sessions and I'm getting paid like $5,000, this isn't a package I have, I'm making this up. But I was like, okay, if I have a package where I have 3 sessions and at $5,000, in my mind, I was like, okay, that's like, $2,222 a session. That's $2,000 an hour. That's not how it works in entrepreneurship. That's not how it works. People are not paying you for your time. They're paying you for your potency and your energy. So that's a whole different training I can kind of get into, but I would consider that when pricing things. And if you are a powerful reader, which you are, right? You have a gift. This is coming through for me, so I'm going to share it for you. When we don't value our gifts, I don't want to say they'll be taken from us, but when we don't value our gifts, the divine will, how do I want to word this? I'm trying to think of the words. So basically, one of my mentors is Jim Fortin. You probably have heard of him. He's changed my life and I love him. And one of the things he would always talk about was like, when you have a gift, like for example, there was a woman that he was specifically speaking of who was an artist. She was a fabulous artist, but she didn't value her art. She didn't value her own work. So she was doing art, but she was doing it at like a super cheap rate. And basically what he was saying was like, you were given this gift by divine. You're an incredible artist. And the kind of art she did was actually power art, where she would channel people's spirit animals and then paint them for them. So super powerful. And now she charges $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for an art piece. But at the time it was like hundreds of dollars. And he was trying to, like the way he explained it made so much sense. He's like, if you aren't placing value on that divine gift, then I don't want to say it'll be taken from you, but the divine will not continue to provide you with the source moving through you to create the gift. Because you're not appreciating it. You're not valuing it. So why would source move through you and provide you the gift when you aren't valuing it? You know what I mean? So we have to place a high value on our value, but you also, because you guys are all spiritual people, you're here in my world, so you're probably like me, right? We have to place a high value on those spiritual gifts we've been given. And people don't value what's cheap. People don't value what's free. Like they just straight up don't. So, you know, the funniest thing is selling high ticket coaching is so much easier than selling low ticket programs. This is the first program I've ever done, or anything I've ever offered that's below $1,200. And although it's sold, it's been a lot harder to sell than something that's more expensive. So I'll just say that. I'm getting off topic because I'm going to go back to what I was saying, but yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let me go back to my notes here. Sorry, guys, I got really off track with the stories. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I had this piece that I wanted to share around like magnetizing soulmate clients or soulmate customers. I want you guys to start thinking of this because it's so much fun. I love sex, first of all, and I love like the dating analogy in general, so we're just gonna go with it. Think of somebody who's like there's men out there who are, if you were to just look at them, you'd be like, oh, he's like a 6. But then they have this like weird energy about them, this like magnetism to them, this confidence, this swagger, where you can literally be a dude and look like a 6, and because of like just your energy, you're a 10. We've all experienced that, right? It's the same thing in our business. So when it comes to magnetizing soulmate clients, I want you to start thinking of you having like your rock solid, clear boundaries as the ultimate hotness energetically. Like it is super sexy to your people. Just like if I were to meet a dude, if he had like my husband, he knows who and what he is. He's very strong in his manhood. He's not wishy-washy. He's not a people pleaser. Like I would have never found that attractive. Right? So I kind of take that same analogy and I apply it to my business. And I remember that me and my fullest expression, me and my fullest power, me owning who I am without apology, that is energetically very hot to my people. It's actually the thing that's going to attract them to me. So I actually don't need to sugarcoat, and I don't need to pretend that I'm like this soft, delicate flower. I can actually just say exactly who and what I am. These are my boundaries. This is how it works. Because that, to the right people, not everybody, but to the right people, that's going to be very, very hot for them, right? Very attractive to them. So I had a note about that. And then the last piece here, I have to wrap up really soon because I have another call, but you have to believe in your people. You have to believe in your people, and you have to believe in their power. So one of the things that I used to really struggle with boundaries was like, I just wanted to make sure that people got all the answers they needed when they needed them. So if a client messaged me, or a customer, or even when in network marketing, a coach in my downline messaged me and had a question, I would be like immediately responding. And what it really comes down to is I didn't trust my people. So when we don't have boundaries, or we over deliver, or we're people pleasing, we're like doing a bunch of stuff for people, overcompensating for people, we're actually victimizing our people. So another aspect of this is you have to trust in your people. You have to trust that they can handle all of you. You have to trust that they can handle strong boundaries. You have to trust that if you're not there answering every little question for them, that they're a grown-ass woman and they'll figure it out. And that was really hard for me because I was like, I want to be there. I want to help everybody. And so I would be answering messages at all the live long hour and like getting back to people immediately. And it's like, fuck that. I'm not going to do that. So this comes into, what are your boundaries for your business hours? Is that clear? There's the ones we create outside of us, and there's the ones we create for ourselves. Now, these can be somewhat flexible because life is meant to be playful. So I have like a morning routine and specific boundaries I've set around my phone, for example. But there's fluidity in that. So what I mean by that is I wake up at a certain time between 6 and 7. There's fluidity. But the hard boundary is I do not look at my social media until I've done my morning stuff, whatever that is. There's fluidity in what it is. Sometimes I meditate. Sometimes it's an energy clearing. Sometimes it's tapping. Sometimes it's almost always a workout. I do the things that feed my soul. I do the things that help me get my mindset in the right space and like move my body. And it's a hard boundary for me that I have with myself that I'm not opening this app or opening my phone for anything other than like to read like anything social media wise, right? If I'm opening my phone, it's because I'm reading a book on there or something. That's a boundary I've created for myself. But don't let these be something where it's like handcuffs and you're just like creating them so strictly that you have no freedom. But to me, that creates a lot of freedom for me. I'm trying to think. I don't have a ton of boundaries with myself. I have really been working on boundaries in my work hours because I love working. So this is actually kind of hard because it's like I love what I do, but I've really been working on, okay, these are your work hours. This is when you work. When you're done with work, the phone needs to go up and you need to be present, which is really hard when you love what you do. So one of the things I've started doing is plugging my phone in my bedroom at the other end of the house. That way I'm less likely to go grab it, right? So what are the things you need to do in your life to create space so that you aren't always connected? You aren't always feeling like you're on. And when we're always on, we tend to be like really reactive. Like we're just like reacting to life all day long. I don't want to react to life. I get to choose how I show up. And the way I choose how I show up is I decide how my day is going to look before it happens. And I set times when I'm going to be on social media, times when I'm going to be on my phone and on my computer and sending emails, and then times when I'm not. And I have to practice that level of self-discipline with myself. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So basically, you've got to believe in people and their power. You've got to trust your people. You cannot keep someone victimized by catering to them, right? And you have to show up like your time matters. Because like Lauren was saying, the universe just matches you. It just mirrors you. It just matches you. It just shows up the way you're showing up. So if you are showing up like your time doesn't matter, because you're giving all your time away because you don't have strong boundaries, then that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to read your frequency and give it right back. Oh, Cassie's showing up like her time doesn't matter. I guess her time doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So that's why there's hard stops around these things. And if there's specific... Yeah, baby.
I want you to make me some
Okay. I'll be done in 3 minutes. 2 minutes, actually. And then I'll come make you strawberry sunshine. Sorry, guys. He's okay, Jessica. I'm almost done, and I'll be in a second. So, where was I with that?
Mommy.
Yeah, baby. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm almost done, so we're going to wrap this up. Now, we're going to get into more of this with the authenticity and like honesty aspect activation, and then the activation around people pleasing. I know I talked about people pleasing a lot, but 4 specific instances of strong boundaries and what that looks like. I'll just share some of them briefly that I have in my business, and then again, let me know what ones you really want help with. So one of the boundaries I have is I don't do coaching in my DMs. I tell them what I already told you guys. I have boundaries around my work hours. Hey, honey, if you're going to be out here, you need to be quiet. Boundaries around my work hours and when my phone is out in the morning. The other aspect of this is I have boundaries around the time I spend on social media with myself. So I'll usually like set a timer and I'll be like, I have 10 minutes to just go for it and do whatever I want to do, scroll, watch people's stories. I don't spend a ton of time doing that because I found it really made me tired. It like energetically drained me. So I had to create a boundary. You don't have to. You don't have to do any of this, right? I'm just sharing what works for me. The other piece that I do is with Voxer. I have different Voxer masterminds, different Voxer chats, and I wouldn't even say it's a boundary as much as it is like, it's just a way that I set my business up so I can be the most effective is, keeping voice memos to 3 minutes or less. Part of that is because I'm a projector. So I'm not using this as an excuse. I just know that my energy is very short-lived. Projectors have like really, really potent energy, but it comes in really short bursts. So I actually don't have the energy to go all day. So I can't listen to a lot of Voxers because I get so tired. So having those kinds of things in place, and again, clear as kind. So when a client comes into a program of mine or a private coaching client, for example, the first thing I do right away with boundaries, you guys, is I tell my clients right away what they are. When you start working with me, that's the first thing we're going to cover. Because clear is kind, and when I set those expectations right away, I'm setting us up on the perfect foot, and I don't have to go back and later explain myself. Mom life. Come over here. Come sit with me. Come over here. Yes. Where do you need a smooch at? All better. Okay. So I think that is it for today's live. Now, please let me know in the comments what questions you have. If there's anything that you were still wondering about, let me know. Like for real, just comment and let me know. And within this program, we're going to have some hypnosis and some meditations and things that I'm going to create as they come through me. And I may add to this boundary piece if another piece needs to come through. I will definitely give that to you guys. But I'm going to wrap up this live, especially because he's wanting to visit. So I hope that was helpful. I love you. I know it was helpful. Can you say hi? And then I'm excited to see any questions you guys have. And I will see you. I'll see you guys on the next activation. Bye, guys. Want to help me end? That's my coffee. Don't drink it.
I'm smelling it.
Oh.